Hi, I'm Amy Shannon from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews
Good evening,
podcast,
listeners.
where
I'm Amy
stories
Shannon, and
speak,
welcome to
voices
Amy's
matter,
Bookshelf
and words
Reviews
come alive.
podcast.
If you are
Conversations, revelations,
following
and
this on
inspirations behind the book.
Spotify,
You never know where the
please
conversation will lead us, so let's
follow
find
the
out.
podcast.
Tonight we have a guest with
Um,
us, so thank you for joining
Now,
us. And will you
the
please introduce
interviewees
yourself and let people
uh,
know how they can
have the
connect with you?
option of having
Hey,
an
yes,
audio
thank you
only
for having
podcast
me.
session
I'm
or a
Raemi
video
Ray,
podcast session.
and you
This
can reach
is
me on my
a
website,
video podcast
raemiray.com,
session,
or
and
on
I hope
socials
that
at
you
Miss
enjoy
Raemi.
it. It will
Great. And that
also
information will
be
definitely be
shown
in the
on
description of
YouTube.
this
So if you are
episode.
watching this on
So,
YouTube,
thank
please
you
subscribe.
again
Thank you.
for joining me. And um, why don't you kind of introduce us to Chain of Pearls?
Oh, sure, yes. I write murder mysteries that are based on the island of Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts. And A Chain of Pearls is the first one in the series. And currently there are 4 books published and 6 total.
Oh, great. So I only read the first one. Actually, I listened to it on audiobook and did a review for that. So I would love to be able to read the other ones. So and I would review those as well. Uh, and I think I should read the print book too, so I can do a separate review. So that would be there's a huge difference between how you write a review for an audiobook versus a print book. And I must say that I know, and I'm thinking I'm correct that your audiobook was published with Pro Audio Voices.
It came out with, it was through my publisher. I don't I remember the narrator's name. Uh,
That's fine. It was a wonderful book. It's been a while since I took a look at it again, but definitely I'm going to go back and read the print book and do the other one. So, how long have you been writing?
so I'm I kind of started, like, I was always into it as a kid, and then I went, to school and things, and it went off um, my table for a long time. And then I kind of just started getting into it piece by piece. I actually started doing a lot of writing for in my legal career, and as dull as that was, I decided to move into fiction.
So, what really got you into writing murder mysteries? I mean, those are really intriguing. I love them. So,
So it's the silliest story. I Googled what books are most popular, and at the time it was murder mysteries came up as number 1, and I was like, okay, I think I can do that. And so I tried. I was pretty much overwhelmed by the concept of writing like epic fantasy. Um, so
yeah, me too.
they seem digestible.
Well, you obviously, I mean, you're really good at it. So, there's got to be when you put your story together. First, what inspires you for that particular story? Say you started with for this series, Chain of Pearls. So, what kind of inspired that and the title and all of that?
Yeah, sure. I'm inspired quite a bit by the like socioeconomic world here in New England and all of the political things that happen, as well as like true crime. So um, A Chain of Pearls is actually based on the real life occurrence of a wind farm that was very heavily argued back and forth, that I think now the project has stalled, but um, that was central to the book, and it is kind of where I took my inspiration. Obviously, in real life, nobody was murdered, but
Hey, what if they were and you don't know it?
so yeah, that one came from there. The second book was based on a real life pirate ship that was discovered off the coast. So you'll find some news, news headlines throughout them.
Oh, that's really cool. So, do you have to do a lot of research into like, okay, say, and do you know ahead of time who committed the murder?
I do. I write them backwards in my head. So I start with the end and then move it backwards through the outline so that I place all the clues and such. So the reader, I want the reader to be able to solve the crime with my narrator. So I do try to plot it that way, where it's not always a Scooby-Doo ending. You can get there on your own too. At least I hope I do.
I get it. I do.
So I write them backwards, and so I know the ending before I know how it starts.
That is so cool, because usually I just recently switched genres to from fiction to nonfiction and children's books. My kids are well grown, but mine was, I could always, except for one book, I knew how to start it, but I never knew how it was going to end until it ended. And I liked that. And then one time I was writing this book and I wrote up to the middle, and then I stopped because it was like, I don't get writer's block, but story block, because I could write something else. I mean, I could write poetry at the drop of a hat, but then it was like in a drawer for so long. And then I went back to it and I'm like, I know how it's going to end. So then I wrote it backwards and then met it in the middle. And that was the first time and the last time I ever did that. But it was something interesting, and I like that it was a challenge. And I think that as writers, you know, sometimes they get stuck and they wonder, oh, writer's block, or they're, you know, frustrated. I hear that a lot. You know, even when they're ready to, you know, toss their typewriter or keyboard out the window because they're so frustrated with writing. But I try to just tell them, you know, take a breath, walk away, write something else, and then you never know what's going to pop back in. So when you put your mysteries in your head and you know who's going to do it, but when you're writing it, is there anything that like comes out that is like you hadn't thought of until you were writing?
Oh, yes. And it's the characters. I write the plot, but the characters' stories through the books, they develop a little bit more organically, reacting to their circumstances, reacting to each other. So their character growth, with the exception of some like very general ideas, that's very much kind of as the story progresses, it develops.
And that's really good, because that makes for good reading and obviously good writing. You have to be able to bring people in and not have it, even though they're solving the crime, but then you know, and you add your little breadcrumbs, and then sometimes they forget about one and they'll go, oh, that's right, they did that, and that's why they did it. So very interesting on how you kind of put your stories together. And so since I haven't read the others in the series, but I will. So is it each book, is it like a separate murder with different characters based in Martha's Vineyard, or do you have the same kind of character, like the same like detective or sleuth or whatever?
It does follow the same cast of characters. My main character, Kira Gibson, is the main character in all of them, and then she has these group of people that she's kind of collecting along the way that go through each story. But each one is a independent, standalone murder mystery that you don't really need to read the others unless you want the character.
Yeah, you probably should. I always recommend to people, and it's for the author's benefit, but also for the readers too, that if you're going to start a series, like you heard, oh, this book just came out and it was volume 10, always read the ones that came before it, even if they're different characters. You know, most of the time they have at least one primary character that goes throughout it, but then there are other ones that, you know, when they do romances or something, and it's always a different romance, and maybe somebody from another book might be in there in the background. But I always recommend, because that way you see the progression of the storytelling of the author. And if you don't see that, then, you know, I mean, authors' writing should grow every time they write something else. You know, they learn from it, they move on, they get more ideas. And I find that it's so important. If you want to find your next favorite author, read their earlier books first and then start reading the other ones, because you will see the growth of the author, you see the growth of the characters, and even like you said, each story is standalone. I have series where each one of my books is standalone, but knowing, even though I do reference things like backstories and things like that, but knowing the characters and how they grow and you get to know them. I have a character who's like, she's very stubborn, and if somebody hurts her family, she's like, I gotta go get them. And so her name's Carly, so they'll say something like, oh, she's getting all Carly like, and that just means of what she does when she reacts to something. And if you only read book 4, means you'd have to read the first ones to know that. So, and so tell me a little bit about Kira, right? Kira.
Yep. Kira's my main character. She is she is a London-based lawyer who comes to the vineyard to settle her estranged and now deceased father's affair. So she's a little bit of a fish out of water. To Martha's Vineyard is probably the opposite of London in every single way. And so she really doesn't know what to expect. And she gets there, and the vineyard is this place that's got this reputation as being this, amazing playground for the rich and wealthy. But underneath that, it's really a small town. For people who live
I see your cat.
this is Dublin.
Yeah, usually mine's sleeping on my bed, but he's not in here tonight. Girl or boy?
Yep, I have 2, Dolph Lundgren and Otto, and they're just piling up right here.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, welcome, guys. I love kitties.
They're good writing partners and reading partners.
Except when they want to sit on your keyboard.
Oh, yep. It's true. It's warm.
Exactly. I'm sorry. Continue on talking about Kira.
No, yeah, I guess that was kind of it. She's just this fish out of water in this world that she doesn't really know what to do with, and she doesn't really understand the people there, coming from this very cosmopolitan city and being kind of thrust in a small town, in that small town environment where everybody knows everyone and people are suspicious of strangers in a different way than you're suspicious of strangers in a city.
Right.
And it really is playing kind of on that, which gives me as the writer a lot of opportunity, because she doesn't know what's going on, and so that's how we can introduce the reader to this world as well, through her naivete.
No, that's really good, because I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I've never been to Martha's Vineyard, so I kind of could relate if I ever did go. Have you been, or do you live near Martha's Vineyard?
I suppose near. I'm right outside Boston, so a couple of hours away. But I have been going there pretty regularly for the last 25 years, dating myself. But yeah, and it really was because I've been there and been there so much, especially year round, that I was able to kind of create this faux version of the world.
No, that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, sometimes people, they just do the research on it. They don't necessarily have to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been in New York City, but a few of my stories, they just kind of come from there. I live in upstate New York, but then I have a 67 volume saga that takes place in Arizona, where I've never been, and it's a fake town. And if it was real, it would be right in the middle of the desert. So I did a lot of research just in the area, so I could, because it wasn't a real town, but I based it off of the town I live in is well, it used to be very small. It just keeps growing and growing and growing now. But sometimes that's just kind of fun. But you being there, it's like just by you have visiting there and you're familiar with it, it's kind of like your own background and your experiences that you're sharing. And you probably could see how, I mean, if you go there and you see somebody, you wave, hey Dave, what's going on? And you know, he knows who you are. But if you were new in town and no one ever, they saw you and they're like, who's that? You know, maybe at the local diner, you're looking for directions or going to get breakfast and you go to the diner where only the locals eat, you know, that kind of thing. So that's pretty cool how you can just put that in there and people will relate to that.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. And I think so. Because I use, my books are about murderers. I try not to use real businesses because many of the proprietors in the books are not good people, but they are based on real places.
Right.
So if you're familiar with the area, you should be able to figure out what I'm talking about. And I've had some people tell me that they kind of enjoy that little game, but you don't need to have been there to know.
Yeah. And that's really good. So yeah, you don't want to the other thing authors do is they name characters based off people they know, so that sometimes those people think, oh, that's about me, you made me a killer. And usually it's just like the name, but they just assume, you know somebody named Fred, and then you put a Fred in there and then Fred thinks it's all about him. So
no, yeah. I think we can thank Dante for that. Didn't he put all of his enemies in certain levels of hell?
yes, Dante, yes, he did. And you know, I think there's that level that, you know, you name your characters after, you know, people you know, and then you kill them or you make them murderers and then they get all upset. I did once, very early in my career, I was writing, I thought it was going to be a short story, but it was ended up being my first novel. And I was writing it based off a work environment that I had worked in. It was corporate cubicle world. And I did a scene that kind of reminded me of me being introduced to this man who ended up working for me. And I had to tell him that later on. I'm like, well, I kind of based it off of him because he just fit that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
He smelled really good. And, you know, that was kind of part of his, like, people knew where he was and where he had been because he wore like, I think it was, he wore polo and Drakkar, not at the same time. Knew where he was. And so I had told him, I'm like, well, you're kind of in the book, but, and then a couple volumes later, I'm like, well, you kind of died, but now you're a murderer. And he's like, oh, okay. I'm like, just in case you wanted to know, you know, I didn't name him after you. So I warned him, but other than that, after that, I was like, no. I used a family name one time without thinking about it, and people automatically thought it had to do with our family. I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with our family. So now I'm very cautious. I got to look up all my ancestors, make sure I'm not using their names, you know. So
yeah.
So you must you said that when you were younger you wrote. What did you write when you were a kid?
I was just kind of like, you know, one of those creative kids who like to create things. And I have very foggy memories of trying to write like a fantasy story with a princess and dragon. And I'm sure I had hundreds and hundreds of pages. I would just sit down and, you know, jot things down, probably with, you know, a pen that had a puffer, like little puffy thing on the top. Yep. I was like that little girly girl. But I have no idea what happened to it. And I think that's best for the best. But
yeah, I have some of my poetry that I wrote when I was a teenager, you know, the dark angst and like, oh yeah, my life is over because he doesn't love me anymore. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I had the pen that had the different colors, you know, the one pen, the blue one with the red, green, and blue. And I would, depending on my mood, so if I was bad mood, it would be red all the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, back then, I think now because we're so computer oriented, kids don't really get the same outlet in writing, like just actually writing down in like a journal or on paper. And it is a little bit cathartic to get all of your angst and anger out on a page that way.
Yeah, I mean, writing it down, that's how I do it. I'll write my ideas in notebooks. I have boxes of my notebooks, and I'll go back and look at them. And you're right, everything is digital, but not that long ago, I bought myself an actual planner, for the every day what I was going to do. And because I'm one that writes everything down, and then I have all these notes all over the place. And so now I just put them in that planner, and I am more organized than I've ever been digitally. It's like, wait a minute, let me check my calendar. And I'm literally checking my calendar, and it just makes it so much easier. I was like, yeah, I have all those, pop-ups, and they get in your way. But if you have your planner, and I was surprised that they still had those, and I was very happy.
I have a paper planner as well.
I think it works great. It's perfect. Just to, even jotting down ideas in a notebook or whatever, and getting what's in your head on a piece of paper. Sometimes I find it's better to write it than to type it. And then you're writing it like in your own way. And I have terrible handwriting, so when I go back and read it, I'm like, what did I say here? But it works, and it tells the story. And I like the way that you tell your stories. Because I read so much. I mean, I've been reading since I could read. I've been telling stories before I could write, and once I could write a story, that was great. When I was able to, when I learned how to write and write my name, and then moved on. But I was always make up stories, and I can just, when I read something somebody wrote, and I could tell if they're passionate about what they write, because I've read things that people write, and the story's good. It's technically accurate, technically correct, with grammar and punctuation, but there's like no depth behind it. Like the passion's not there. Like they're like, oh yeah, I should write a book, and then they do, and then they're like, yeah, well, and it wasn't that, I mean, the story is good, but no. So when I was listening to, your audiobook, and you get the inflections from, but still the story is yours, and those are your words behind their voices. So don't ever stop writing.
Oh, thank you. Kim Breton, who's the narrator, did such an amazing job. She really did bring the characters to life. And I think what I loved most is that she kind of, pictured isn't the right word, but what she did with them was not necessarily what I had imagined when I was writing them. And it still worked amazingly, and she still did such a good job. And that was just a very cool, as like, obviously I read books, but I never really thought that I was thinking something different than the author originally.
Right. Yeah.
It was such a neat thing to see it from the writer's perspective. But she was so good at it.
Yeah. When I write something, and then I go back to it once it's, pretty much done, I try to look at it as a reader and how they would do it. But I also found out too that when I used to do beta reading, and then somebody stole my work, and I stopped doing that. But they pirated it and all that. But I've got it all figured out. Amazon actually helped me with that. But I found that if a male reader read my story, they would look at the female characters one way, and females would look at the character a different way. I had a character who was kind of like being bold a little bit, and she was promiscuous, but she did it to feel something other than what she was feeling. So she, the way I tried to write her and how other women saw that she was, she just took charge of her life and however she wanted to live it, that's how she did it. Where men, they would look at her and say, oh, she's just a, what, and she's easy in some ways. And so I always found that that was kind of interesting in how, any perspective, any reader is going to imagine, them in a way that maybe we didn't think of. And sometimes it has to do with, what their gender is. And I mean, I'm not gender biased in any way, but I've just known from, how people look at other, the opposite sex, or, how they view people just by who they think they are rather than who they actually are. I mean, I get that myself. People judge me because I'm in a wheelchair and I'm a different person than I was 20 years ago, but aren't we all?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I know how that feels. And when they say don't judge a book by its cover, they weren't talking about literature. They're talking about people. Literature, yeah, definitely you want a good cover. And this is very interesting. So I'm very excited that you've been on this show, and you are welcome back anytime to talk about your other books. So I will, again, thank you very much. And I just want to thank audience for listening. And if anyone wants to be a guest on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and schedule your pre-recording. Don't forget, if you wish to comment on this show or any show, comments are available and I will read them. And join me again next week for another great conversation. Please follow this podcast on Spotify. And if you want to check out my work, just Google me. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for watching this video podcast. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is a takeoff of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews website, and which does reviews and also author promotions. You can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com for more information. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, follow, and keep listening. Thank you.